The town of Bitter Creek shimmered under the heat of the noonday sun. Dust curled from wagon wheels and horse hooves, coating the wooden storefronts in a dull layer of brown. It was a town where secrets festered and hearts learned not to trust too easy. But on this blistering July afternoon, something, or someone, new stirred the wind. She came stumbling down the main road, barefoot, with torn skirts and blood crusted at her temple. Her hair, once golden, hung in greasy ropes across her face. Her eyes, though bruised, burned with a fierce determination. Annabeth Harlan had run for miles. She'd escaped through the back window of a house that had been more prison than home for 3 long years. Her husband, Judge Malcolm Harlan, held more than power in Bitter Creek. He held fear. But today, she'd stolen back her freedom. A few townsfolk peered from behind curtains. No one dared help. Malcolm had friends in high places. But one man, standing just outside the blacksmith's, stepped forward, narrowing his eyes against the sun. Colt Mercer was no stranger to broken things. He'd fought in the war between states, rode with outlaws for a time, and finally laid roots here, buying a modest ranch outside town. He wasn't one to meddle until now. "Miss?" he said gently, stepping forward, hat in hand. Annabeth swayed, barely able to stand. "Don't let him take me back," she whispered before collapsing into Colt's arms. Chapter 2, A Quiet Sanctuary. Colt didn't take her to the sheriff. He didn't take her to Doc Simmons, either. Instead, he loaded her into his wagon, rode past the town limits, and brought her to his ranch, a quiet place nestled between rust-colored hills and shaded cottonwoods. She woke 3 days later, on a bed too clean for someone like her, in a room that smelled of soap and pine. Her wounds had been cleaned, her cheeks stitched, and a soft quilt lay over her. Colt sat by the fire, reading. When he noticed her stir, he stood slowly. "Name's Colt Mercer. You're safe now." Her throat was raw. "Annabeth." She hesitated. "Harlan." His eyes darkened at the name. "Yeah, I figured." He brought her water and soup, never crowding her, never asking more than she could give. As the days stretched, Annabeth learned the rhythms of his home, how he rose before dawn, worked the land with care, and spoke to his horses like they were old friends. He never asked about her scars, not the ones on her face, nor the ones deep inside. One morning, while she watched him mend a fence, she asked, "Why did you help me?" Colt looked up, sweat glinting on his brow. "Because I've known what it is to be hurt, and I know what it is to be left." Chapter 3, A Love That Grows in Silence. Summer bled into early fall. Annabeth began to heal not just her bruises, but her spirit. She helped with cooking, feeding the animals, even laughed once when Colt tripped over chicken. That sound, it lit something in him he hadn't known was still alive. They shared quiet meals, long silences, and simple joys. He carved her a hair comb. She sewed him a shirt. One evening, while rain tapped the windows, Cole handed her a mug of coffee and said softly, "You don't have to run anymore. If he comes looking, I'll deal with it." Annabeth's hands trembled around the mug. "He won't stop. Not until I'm dead or back in chains." Colt's jaw tightened. "Then he'll have to go through me." They said nothing more that night, but she fell asleep feeling safe for the first time in years. Days later, Annabeth found Colt playing his old guitar on the porch. She sat beside him and asked, "Do you believe someone broken can be loved?" He didn't look at her when he answered, "Not only can, they deserve it most." Her hand reached for his, callous and warm. Their fingers laced together without another word. Chapter 4, Shadows Ride Again. Trouble came just before the first snow. Sheriff Dunlay rode out to Colt's place, hat in hand, eyes grim. "Malcolm's here." Brought 2 hired guns with him. Said his wife was kidnapped. Annabeth froze. Colt stepped between her and the sheriff. "Tell Malcolm he's got no claim here. You know how dangerous this could get. Colt, I ain't scared of a man who beats women." The sheriff gave a slow nod and left. That night, Colt showed Annabeth the rifle hidden under the floorboards and taught her how to load it. "I don't want you to get hurt," she whispered. He looked at her with fire in his eyes. "I'd rather die standing than see you taken again." The next morning, Malcolm arrived. He rode up with a sneer on his lips, dressed in city clothes that looked ridiculous in the dust. "Annabeth, you come with me now, or I'll burn this place to the ground." She stepped out onto the porch, chin high. "No." Malcolm's eyes widened. "You forget who I am." "No, I remember, and I won't go back to that hell." Malcolm raised his hand to strike, but Colt was faster. He fired once into the dirt by Malcolm's boot. "Touch her and I'll bury you." The hired guns hesitated. One of them backed away. The other took a step, but Annabeth lifted the rifle Colt had given her. "I won't be a victim again," she said. The hired gun scattered. Malcolm cursed, promising revenge, but Colt walked straight up to him, grabbed him by the collar, and punched him square in the jaw. The judge hit the ground, groaning, his power broken. Sheriff Dunley came by later to say Malcolm had left town for good. Chapter 5, A New Spring. Winter was long but kind. The ranch became their sanctuary once more, now without fear. Annabeth began planting a garden. Colt built her a rocking chair for the porch. One day, in early spring, she found Colt looking over a pile of wooden nails. "What are you building now?" she asked. He looked at her, a rare smile tugging his lips. "A crib." She blinked, heart stumbling in her chest. How did you know?" "I didn't," he said softly. "I hoped." She laughed, the sound wet with emotion. "I think he'll have your eyes." Colt wrapped his arms around her. Or her mother's fire. Chapter 6, The Wedding Under Cottonwoods. They didn't need a church or a crowd. Just a warm day, a preacher passing through, and two hearts who had known pain and still chose love. Annabeth wore a dress she'd sewn from scratch. Colt wore his best shirt, the one she'd patched with her own hands. They stood under the cottonwoods near the creek, hands clasped, eyes full of promise. "I once thought I was broken beyond repair," she whispered during their vows. "But you saw past my scars." "I didn't fix you," he replied, voice thick. "You saved yourself. I just stood beside you." The preacher declared them man and wife, and when Colt kissed her, it was not just a kiss of love, it was one of triumph. Epilogue, a home built on love. Years later, the ranch would be filled with the sound of laughter and small feet chasing chickens. The townsfolk of Bitter Creek would speak of Colt Mercer and his wife Annabeth as legends, how a wounded woman escaped a tyrant and found strength not just to survive, but to thrive. Their love was not born of fairy tales. It was forged in fire, in dust, in wounds and healing, in loyalty and truth. And every time Colt looked at Annabeth, he was reminded of a woman who walked out of the desert with nothing but a will and gave him everything he never knew he needed.